All right, happy Monday, everybody. Arya Masudi, Kurt Weiler, Bob Ferranti, the boys of the Osceola are back for another Seminole Sidelines. Those of you listening on Apple, on Spotify, we appreciate you. This has been a fun podcast for us to do now since we launched in last August. Fellas, it's been almost a year since the Osceola moved to Rivals and launched on the big time. And this will be a lot of fun as we get to that 1-year anniversary. I want to shout out those of you watching the now up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, Miami Heat. Perhaps the Boston Celtics will lay down, but somehow I am still terrified of what might happen, and I am prepared to be hurt. But anyway, you're here to listen about some Florida State athletics. You're here to watch some news about the Noles, and I think the storyline of the weekend was none other than Kathryn Sandercock's perfect game against South Carolina with the season on the line. Kurt, we'll start with you. Bob, chime in right after. That is one of the great performances we have seen in Florida State sports history, considering the stage and what was at stake.
The stage takes it to another level, but even not considering the stage, I mean, like I wrote a story. It's on the website this morning. I wrote it last night. Just kind of about, I mean, there almost needs to be another tier above a perfect game for what Kat did. I mean, to not let a ball out of the infield, to retire 21 batters on order in 59 pitches. I mean, less than 3 pitches in at bat. Like just, I mean, it was probably the most locked in I've ever seen a pitcher. And I mean, like you said, with the season on the line, with her career on the line, it almost seemed like she single-handedly was kind of willing into existence. We're not going to have the total repeat of last year. I mean, obviously she wasn't bad by any means last year in that day against Mississippi State, but she was human. She was superhuman yesterday.
Yeah. You know, guys, today is May 22nd. May 22nd of last year was the Mississippi State games. That's when it all fell apart for Florida State. So, you know, Kurt, as you wrote, 364 days later, exercising some of those emotional demons. Hey, Kat is stone cold. I mean, I asked her post game when she realized there was a ton of zeros on the scoreboard, and she said, "Oh, I knew it all along." I mean, she came into that circle knowing she was going to bring it and mix her pitches and just wanted to dominate, wanted to leave it all out there. Honestly, in a regional setting, it's probably one of the most impressive things, you know, we've seen. Softball, baseball. We've seen some great pitching performances out of Florida State pitchers through the years, you know, between Omaha, OKC. But I think this is one that we will probably remember for a long, long time. When you say the name Kat Sandercock, oh yeah, it's what she did in that kind of high pressure, truly a winner take all situation to be perfect. And again, as Kurt mentioned, a ball didn't leave the infield perfect. It was just about the weakest kind of contact game that you've seen from a lot of opponents. So a really cool, I think, moment for her and for the entire team.
Her time's not done here, obviously. She's got at least this weekend. And I think hopefully, I mean, Florida State, obviously the home team with a trip to OKC on the line. But I mean, it was a signature moment where Kat may not have had that, like Megan King had that winning the title, like Jessica Burrows had many times. I mean, she had kind of the moment that she'll be remembered for whatever happens the rest of the way.
59 pitches, Kurt, you said it. Oh, wow. That is probably what's most amazing, is that she looked in complete control. Like, if you throw a perfect game, obviously you dominated. Clearly, that's as good as it gets in sports, right? Softball, baseball. But then there's like the inner workings of each at bat, and it was like they had no shot. I couldn't think of hard contact that was made. The drop ball was working to perfection. South Carolina's head coach commented after, and she said that is tough. And when she's painting it inside, outside corner, you have no shot. And her defense behind her, I thought, played really well too. Muffley made a handful of plays, and I thought it was a complete team effort for Lonnie Alameda's group.
Yeah, I think I question, are we going to address the whole starting Allie Dubois thing? 'Cause I think we almost need to. Of all the pitchers, and I respect Lonnie Alameda a ton, I'm not going to challenge her one bit. I'm just questioning your best option, Kat Sandercock. Your second best option, McKenna Reed. Your third, Mac Leonard.
Or Allison Royalty.
Or Allison Royalty, 4.
Yeah.
Dubois may be your 5th best option, honestly. And South Carolina took advantage of that with using the bunt, using the small ball to get on base. And Allie doesn't field as well as Florida State's other pitchers. It's just a fact. I kind of felt it was kind of awkward watching it. Like, this just didn't feel like the best decision to start her. Maybe you put her in mid-game or whatnot, but it felt really strange overall.
It's good that like one of us didn't have to write that story, because no doubt that would have been a story. I mean, I think I saw some people, I mean, I will say, so I saw some people talk about Lonnie may not have learned lessons from last year. I think she did learn a lesson in that last year. She put Kat in relief in that first game and like let Mississippi State see her before she started and pitched the majority of that second game. I think this time kind of saving Kat of I mean, not letting them see her and then have the rain delay to talk and study her more. I mean, I think help matters of just, you knew Kat was going to get the one game. You kind of tried to steal one without your ace, but I tend to agree. Starting with, I mean, Mac Leonard gave them such a great start Friday night. I think McKenna Reed has proven up to just about every moment she's been thrown into. I mean, you wonder what the pitching strategy for this weekend becomes for sure. I think some of it hinges on game one. Do you win or lose? But it's always fascinating, especially when you have so many options, how that should shake out for a 3-game series, or potentially a 3-game series this weekend.
I'm excited. Does it get better than the Noles and the Dogs? That's going to be a lot of fun. I believe both games that we know that you are playing will be on ESPN2. If necessary, I'm sure we'll find a way onto E1 or E2. The Dogs are good, guys. They are a really, really good softball team. And as you saw, South Carolina, people get tired of hearing us talk about how good the SEC is in softball. It is really top to bottom deep. Like there are 12, 13 teams in that conference that are legitimate at the sport. And that's because of how much they've invested. And so the ACC is getting there. Shout out 3 ACC teams getting forward. Got to give some love to Duke and Clemson for making supers again. But this is an SEC team that is going to come in here ready to go. You saw South Carolina was, a bubble team almost within the SEC, and they were capable of knocking off Florida State once. So the Noles have to be ready. Bob, what are you looking forward to most, though, Thursday through Saturday at the Plex?
I think our pre-regional storyline was just how battle-tested this Florida State team is after what happened last year at Mississippi State. But, I mean, the Seminoles have played almost all of the national seeds, almost all of the top 8 national seeds between Clearwater and Oklahoma State. They obviously played Duke and Clemson very well. So it feels like this team is as ready for whatever's going to come down the road. The scary thing with Georgia is just the potential for home runs. We saw what Georgia did against Virginia Tech, putting a lot of runs on the board. I want to see that Florida State offense be a little bit more productive. Yes, we saw some big hits against Marist. Yes, we saw the potential to rack up some doubles. This feels like a roster that hits doubles up and down the lineup, which is a great thing. But I think we need to see more production out of that Florida State lineup just to match the pitching from Kat and the others.
One run in 14 innings, it is like Florida State had yesterday, not going to cut it this weekend. And I don't think any of us think it'll happen again. I think it's just, it was those days happen. And that's the tough thing about playing 2 games in one day, which Florida State shouldn't have to do this weekend. I'll tell you, so Donald asked if we were there. Yeah, all of us were there yesterday. Can you not tell by looking at my face and my arms and the top of my knees? Beyond what Bob said, which I'm excited for. I'm excited for those start times. The primetime atmosphere at Joanne Graff Field's always fun, and I think it should be a better environment for fans. I applied sunscreen, did not reapply sunscreen, which I think was my mistake, and feeling it a little today. But we've seen with some of those, a lot of super regionals feels like for Florida State are those night games. And just, the atmosphere at Graff in that super regional, when it's the 2 teams, the 2 fan bases going back and forth, the intensity and the prime time of it all, I think should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, offensively, they're going to have to be better. I mean, you're not going to be able to get the job done. It's an offensive Georgia team that comes in and they hit home runs. You're going to see 4 or 5 hitters with double-digit bombs on the year, and they've got a couple of good arms too. I think FSU's the better team, obviously. Playing at home, it should be a great atmosphere, but Lonnie Alameda always talks about getting lost in the battle, getting lost pitch to pitch, and I think FSU is going to have to focus a little bit. Should be great, though. Two night games in a row. You're going to feel those juices flowing. I'm really happy for the program after the way last year went to get a chance to be back hosting and an opportunity to get to OKC. I wonder, though, with the lineup, I mean, are there a couple of names that you guys think have to step up? Obviously, Dak's been good for them all year. Mudge has had key moments. There's power in Michaela Edenfield's bat. But it feels like they need some consistency 1 through 9 to be able to beat a Georgia team and make it to the Women's College World Series.
Yeah, I think, Janai Kerr could pick it up a little bit, use her speed to get on the bases and be a havoc there. Mac Leonard took an 0 for 4 against UCF. That doesn't happen all that often. I thought, I think it's just you're facing great pitching, and that's the problem this time of year. I think the pitchers are better. I think the defense is better. We're not seeing teams make silly mistakes in the infield. UCF certainly did, kind of scuffled it around a little bit on that game Saturday. But you're going to see better teams overall. You're not going to get the cheap kind of unearned runs as much. But yeah, I think, will there be some lineup adjustments? Will Lonnie kind of look at things and maybe move some players down, maybe move some players up? I think that might be my expectation.
I'll be looking forward to Thursday and seeing who Lonnie goes with first in the circle. Do you just go straight to Kat Sandercock? Lonnie's always kind of had an ace up her sleeve for these things, which is why I think Dubois pitched game 1 of that doubleheader, what ended up being 2 games. And it's because I think she's trying to find one other person that can give you something. McKenna Reed's phenomenal, right? Like, she's so talented, but Mac hasn't been in all those, those situations yet. Is it going to be a Leonard who comes in and gives you some outs? Is it Allison Royalty, who's been up and down? And I just think that you may not be able to try that out in a super regional, right, scene and stage. So I think she was looking to see what Dubois could give her. And I thought it was a mixed results, right? Like, Dubois' changeup's really good. Maybe she can still come in and get you an inning. And in softball, you can always bring your starter back in. But It does seem, and let me get your thoughts on this, both of you. It seems like you're going to ride Kat Sandercock to OKC this week.
It needs to be Kat game 1. You cannot, winning game 1 of a series is critical. And you can't have anybody but your best arm out there. I think it has to be Kat game 1. Honestly, I mean, we saw it in the College World Series, championship series they won against Washington. If Kat throws and they win game 1, she might throw Kat again game 2 and then have everybody else kind of in the bag for game 3. That's what she did in the championship series against Washington a few years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You have to go down, or in what's a critical game 1 as a tone setter. I mean, we've seen Florida State come back from down 0-1, but that's tough. Especially against a talented team like Georgia. I think you absolutely have to go down with your best option in place.
Yeah, I would go Kat game 1 too, and then maybe game 2 if you want to just kind of change it up a little bit. You could start Mac, get her a couple innings there, a trip or 2 through the order. They are kind of monitoring Mac's. She's got a back injury. I know Lonnie had mentioned that on Friday that she's not going to go deep into games. That's not what she does, for Florida State. But you could throw in, Mac and McKenna Reed a little bit in that game too if you just want to get Kat some rest. But we all know Kat's going to be the way that this team gets back to OKC. So in the end, the formula should start with her in game 1 on Thursday.
Cool. Well, you got Florida State and Georgia. It'll be Thursday and Friday, primetime, ESPN2. Should be a lot of fun. Guys, we'll be there, full coverage. We're excited. It's been a couple of years and kind of a change of pace for FSU to not be playing LSU in a super regional. So I guess that's a little bit different. Either way, the Noles are going to earn their way to OKC if they're able to get there.
Y'all see how LSU's season ended?
Yeah, that was something.
An intentional walk pitch out was a wild pitch that scored the tying run, and then a intentional walk pitch right down the middle was cranked for the game-winning hit.
Yeah.
Torina's seat's pretty hot.
Yeah. That was at this time of year too, like some of the coaches talked about it in postgame. The parity of the sport is so good right now. And I mean, UCLA, the 2 seed overall is out, right? Arkansas, the 11 seed is out. And there's a couple of others. If I pull up the bracket in front of me, there were multiple upsets this week. And
LSU's the 7, Washington, the 10 almost lost. Clemson almost lost.
Oklahoma did not almost lose.
No, Oklahoma. I mean, you have to have that caveat of there's parity except Oklahoma. It's not to say that Florida State or someone else can't beat Oklahoma. We almost saw them do it 2 years ago. But that is they do not seem to mess around or play with their food very often.
Agreed. So, all right, let's move on to some baseball talk here. We're just past the 15-minute mark. Big win for Link Jarrett's group, huh? On the road, tough place to play. They win the series at Louisville. I think they lost the first game and then came back to win games 2 and 3 of the series. And if you look there on your screen, for those of you watching and those of you listening, 8-3 in their final 11 games. This team definitely played much better to end the year. It's not the year that people wanted. Things have to change, clearly. But nice for the group. Bob, we'll start with you to be able to find some answers and kind of go into the offseason with some positive vibes.
I would say from start to finish, this was probably the least fun we've had following a Florida State baseball team, but at least the way they did finish, 8-3, I think we can find some positives down the stretch. I thought James Tibbs had a really fantastic season overall. Andrew Armstrong, the way my goodness, what did he pitch? Like 31 or 32 appearances, including a start up there in Louisville. I mean, that just shows you what that guy can be, what he can bring to you in 2024. We wanted to see how some of these guys were fighting down the stretch. Did they care? Were they invested? Was there quit? Top to bottom, maybe you can question some specific guys and how they performed. That's fine if you want to do that. I think we were looking all along, who's truly invested, who wants to be part of this program long term. I'm curious, just saw a tweet from James Tibbs. It says, looking forward, see you at Hauser next year. Don't know if that's a 100% saying I'm coming back, but it's good to see kind of positive, I think, energy going at least into this offseason.
It's far easier, you have to imagine, for Link Jarrett to sell to the guys he wants to keep on this roster. I'm not saying that's like a huge chunk of the roster. It'll be fascinating to see how much of the roster is back, but it's much easier to sell than I know we had conversations not that long ago about, is this team going to win 15 games? Like, that was the type of situation we were looking at. And it feels harder to sell that off that bad a season because, when you look at it, the season comes down to that stretch where, they lost Wyatt Crowell, and they didn't seem to handle it very well for a few weeks' time. Losing 22 of 24 over like a month and a half. And there was some luck there. It's not to totally say that they deserve to lose that many games in that span, but they didn't seem to handle it well. But a credit to them for not quitting. And I think that's a testament to, some belief in Link Jarrett. I think you've seen enough from enough guys. That the lineup was young. The lineup was also promising. Look at Ben Barrett's. Was it Saturday? I think not the last game of the year, it was the last game of the year. We had 3 extra base hits. That's like 2 doubles and a triple. He's a guy who trying to figure out his role. But yeah, if you bring back James Tibbs, if you bring back Cam Smith, if Diamez is back and healthy and more, hopefully doesn't run into any more walls at full speed, I think there's a lot to like about that. The pitching is going to be a portal need. I think the portal opens for baseball a week from today. I think it is. I think it's May 29th. I looked that up for the column I wrote on the website. And no doubt pitching will be a big thing to address there, and maybe some hitting as well, just to maybe getting a few more players who positionally where they're going to line up to shore up the defense. But I don't know. This offseason will be what Link Jarrett couldn't do last offseason. He's going to get to have time to be there for the transfer portal from the jump, beyond all of that and kind of be able to shape the roster better with how late he and his staff were at last offseason. That was a real challenge.
3 starts, 2 guys this weekend. You guys touched on it a little bit, but Armstrong goes Thursday, pitches pretty well. J-Bomb continues that upward trajectory. The talent's always been there. He's projectable for the MLB draft.
Just needs to have
we'll see if he decides to go. He's probably in the 3 to 5 range right now, closer to the 5 round than he is a 3, probably at this point. But that's still pretty good money, and it's still enough to make someone think. So let's see what happens with Baumeister, but he certainly pitched much better in his last 5 or 6 starts of the year. Really like what Connor Whitaker gave you on Saturday. He was probably your most consistent arm in the last month of the season in terms of quality starts, how deep he got into games, etc. And then the young bats, right? Like, they continue to play well. I think James Tibbs is a star, and that's something that got lost this year because the overall product was not very good. I think people nationally, maybe within the FSU community too, lost sight of the fact that James Tibbs put together a 17 home run season hitting above 330. And that's a kid who's going to get drafted, in my opinion, no later than the 2nd round next year when he's eligible. I was told he's going to the Cape this summer with Brewster. So that's going to be a good opportunity for him to go with the wooden bats. We'll see if Jaime Ferrer comes back, what those conversations look like. He certainly had a good year. I thought Cam Smith showed you some good stuff this weekend and throughout his freshman year. And the lineup has pieces, right? Like you mentioned, Ben Barrett, he got healthy again towards the end of the season, was dealing with a wrist injury in the middle part of the year that kept him out of the lineup. But Florida State's got pieces, right? Like there are pieces there to work around. But clearly, Kurt, they got to go in the portal this offseason and go and get some guys, older guys specifically, that can come in and shore things up, because the expectation next year isn't just to make a regional. Like, you're expected to push for hosting, right? Like that's the goal of Florida State, is to be able to host, because that gives you the best chance of doing what the ultimate goal is, and that's making Omaha to win a national title.
I don't think many people, some are, and that's it. You're always going to have the people who think that. Don't think that many people are holding this season that much against Link Jarrett. I mean, I think we've all been well aware of the fact that the cracks have been shown for a while, and they kind of just got worse, and it was a bad timing, and things snowballed during that stretch, like we've said. But yeah, I think what this season did do is, I mean, you kind of might need to see the acceleration a little faster. I think another season remotely like this would be tough. And I'm not saying it would put Link on the hot seat, but it would put some pressure, no doubt, in what he's doing. And I mean, it is a season where if he can take a big jump, and I mean, we saw kind of instant impacts at each of his previous spots where he's been a head coach. And so there wasn't the instant impact here, and there were some reasons behind that. I think the state of the pitching staff, through no real fault of their own. I mean, they kind of tried to do what they could, but then once they lost Wyatt, especially, that was a huge disadvantage they were dealing with every weekend. But yeah, I think it puts a pressure on, no doubt. I mean, being in the hosting conversation, not being on the bubble. I mean, Florida State, even the 2 years before this, was on the bubble and kind of barely in the tournament. Each of those 2 years as a 3 seed. You need to take that step forward back towards what Florida State was, under Mike Martin, for sure, Mike Martin Sr.
Yeah, I think it's about, we mentioned this on the message board a lot, even in the middle of the season when they were, 23 losses in 25 games. I mean, it was just, yeah. So we were talking about, okay, what's next? And to me, it's you coach, you recruit, you develop, you hit the portal like a madman. You go and get the McGuire Holbrook type of guy, the guy who went out of state, but he's a Florida-born, Florida high school player. You say the pitch is come back to the Sunshine State, come back here, finish up your degree, play for Florida State, help us rebuild what we have here. And, honestly, to the fans, still buy tickets, still contribute to a rising spear. We know NIL is going to be a big component of college baseball moving forward. Florida State will only build this program, I think, through recruiting, development. I do feel very passionately that NIL is going to be a big component of the non-football sports. We've seen it's become a big deal in women's athletics, especially at LSU, for example, where they've stockpiled, great athletes in gymnastics and women's basketball. So, hey, if you believe in this program and you have some money, consider speaking up with your wallet if you can, because that's how great players are going to remain part of your program. They want to get a degree. They want to play great baseball, want to go to Omaha, want to get to the majors, want to get drafted. But I do think NIL is going to be part of the package that Florida State baseball is going to have to put out there for players.
If LSU wins the national title, which they're on the short list of probably the most likely candidates entering conference tournament week, that just confirms, I think, what NIL in the college baseball sphere can do, because they had that Marucci money and I think used it pretty well, bringing in some really talented transfers. And I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country. And I think some other people will definitely try to follow suit if that's what LSU does. So
I think up the middle, you got to get a little bit better, right? Shortstop, second base. I think those are areas you probably need to go and improve. You're probably set at the corners. First base, Tibbs started to really play well there for you.
Yeah,
I think that's where he's going to stick for the next level. Cam, obviously, at the hot corner, might be the best third baseman I've seen defensively at FSU in a couple of years, at least in recent memory. Outfield, Link has said he wants to get more athletic. He told me he wanted 3 center fielders, basically, to be playing the outfield. You got one in Diamez. What are you going to do with the other 2 spots? We'll see where they go with that. I thought catcher Colton really took a step forward in his final year, but I would like that to be more of an impact player going forward for FSU in the Matt Nelson type, if you could get that. Traditionally, historically, FSU's catchers have been contending for awards, right? Like it's that type of player. And then on the mound, right? Like that's where you're going to win games, is with your arms. And if FSU can go get, I think no less than 5 new arms that need to come in, 5 out of the portal. They've got some committed in JUCO, but I'd like to see some out of the portal come in and really make a difference. They don't have to be, world beaters. They don't have to be draft picks, but they do need to be good college arms that throw strikes. And that works at this level. We've seen it. And so those are the types of things that I would like to see. Maybe another left-handed bat, if you can get one, to supplement Diamez Ross and James Tibbs in there. Link's big on the lefty bats. But other than that, I thought the culture took a step forward over the last month. The win over Wake definitely propelled the team mentally, and that's what we were hoping for. Should be a lot more, positive feelings going into this offseason as kids get into summer ball and start to work their way towards 2024.
That last weekend is a testament to, the job Link and the team and the coaching staff and everyone in that program did. Louisville was the team with something to play for. Florida State had nothing to play for. Its season was always ending that weekend. Louisville with a sweep would be assured to make it the ACC tournament, especially after that first game. That's a heartbreaking way to lose the first game on the homer in the 8th inning, breaking the tie game. And then you get down Saturday or Friday in game 2. It says a lot about, I think, the belief in Link that they stayed invested, rallied Saturday, and kind of, won convincingly Sunday, or Saturday to end the season. That was a kind of a resounding way to end it. As happy an ending as you could hope for, given the circumstances and kind of the end of the NCAA tournament streak.
Yeah. So Florida State baseball heads to the offseason. We'll see what they do. Fellas, let's end the show with a little bit of football talk. We've gone through the softball for the first 16, 17 minutes of the show, 10 minutes or so on baseball, and maybe 5 to 10 minutes on football. We don't have a lot of news to report. So what I wanted to ask you guys, give me your top 3 players you're looking forward to seeing play as we head into the summer and into the fall. First offense, and then we'll go into defense.
Ooh. Is there just curiosity about Keon Coleman just because he's the new toy of the transfer portal?
Yeah. That's who I was going to say. Just, what he does as an established productive receiver, adding to, I think, an already talented group, but he gives them a really solid number 2 option next to Johnny.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out that wide receiver depth chart, even if you go, 3 in the game. You've got options. That's awesome.
You throw Kentron in the slot as like a big slot. he could move well enough where I don't think and then you've got 3 6-foot guys on the field at the same time, 3 like 6'3" or 6'4" guys. I don't know how Kentron is offhand, but Keon's 6'4", Johnny's 6'7". I mean, I think Kentron's 6'3" or 6'4" too. Like that's, I mean, the size of that is wow. I'm gonna throw in another receiver. I'm gonna go Kentron. I think, I mean, he was the dude of the spring. Is he the same dude to start the fall? Like, was that maybe like a sustained stretch of maybe him at his best and he's not able to be that on a daily basis? Or is that who he is now? Does he carry that over into the preseason? Because if he does, I mean, if you have that 3-headed monster plus Vandrevius, plus Winston Wright, plus Ja'Kai Douglas, plus Hakeem Williams, I mean, it's plus the tight ends, who I didn't even mention. It's a truly scary proposition for any opposing defensive coordinator.
I'm looking forward, guys, to seeing Vandrevius Jacobs. Like, I mean, you guys kept pumping him up. I can't wait to see what it looks like in fall ball when they get to practice. And then once they get into the season, obviously, we're staying on the receiver theme where I think Florida State might have one of the best units, not just in the ACC, but in the country, right? Like, you're talking about a Wilson who could go first or second round. You've added the depth with a Keon Coleman. Kentron has a chance to really work himself into a star in the college football ranks. And then we'll see when Winston Wright gets fully healthy and into game shape, right? Like, I think he's probably feeling pretty good physically at this point now. It's being in football shape. That receiving core has a shot. Williamson, another one that's talented and has a chance to take steps forward this year. But they went and did the work in the portal. They've done a good job of developing as well. You lose Micah Pittman, but I think the receiving core is going to give Jordan Travis a ton of options, not to mention Ja'Kai Douglas, right, who's kind of that hybrid running back wide receiver combo, can do a little bit of everything for you. And then you also dream about a Jaheim Bell. That's, to me, was in my top 3. I can't wait to see him play. I was hoping Florida State got him when he came out of high school, out of Valdosta area, and for him to finally be here is pretty exciting. Everyone's going to say Jordan Travis. I had this text exchange with some buddies about who are you most excited, and they all just couldn't stop saying Jordan Travis. I get it. Trey Benson, household name, we get it. But there's some other guys on this offense. Can I give some love to the offensive line? I am really, really intrigued about the combinations that they're going to settle on, because you have probably 7 to 8 guys who could start and feel good about.
I think maybe even 9.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you do? I mean, and that's going to be interesting conversation to have. Defensively, what do you guys think? Who are 3 guys that you are really excited to see how they play in 2023?
I think Darrell Jackson is toward the top of my list. I think he'd be one of my 3 just because we saw what he did in some of those one-on-one matchups. I think that's an easy one. I know the waiver's still sitting out there, but I think I'm going to think optimistically that he gets that waiver. I choose to kind of feel that way. Linebacker, man, I mean, Kalen DeLoach, that spring game was darn good too. He had multiple takeaways, would have had multiple touchdowns. I think we're just kind of seeing a Kalen DeLoach that, hey, he made the decision to come back. He knows it's all on the line. He's got a shot to make the NFL. He's undersized, but man, Kalen can really, really play. I thought he had a great spring. Third guy, I don't know. I think a DB definitely needs to step up. I mean, we need to see a safety, a Shaheem Brown, if he is the guy. Not to again, I hate the term shoes to fill. You're not filling Jamie Robinson's shoes, but you need to play the best safety that you can. I think Shaheem is probably the best option to be kind of a versatile safety type in that secondary.
That was one of mine as well, was Brown. I think he has NFL potential. Like, I actually think Shaheem, if it comes together for him, could be playing on Sundays for a very long time. Kurt, can I also mention, and this is going to be a duh statement, I'm going to mention Jared Verse, and it's only because I want to see what that top level looks like for him, like why he came back. Last year was really good. You have a chance to, I think, if you're Verse, to kind of put yourself in the conversation as one of the best defensive ends Florida State's ever had, right? Like, that's the type of talent that he has. Now he has to go out there and do it.
What I've said a few times, I mean, I feel like the Jarrett verse in that LSU game, we never saw again because he got hurt the next week against Louisville, and he was able to make it back a few weeks after that, but we didn't see, maybe even till that Oklahoma game when he kind of ended that game, we didn't see that level of, I mean, and I think he was playing and not quite 100%. So an off season, but also, I mean, rounding out his game in terms of as a run stopper, not just being maybe a more of a pure pass rusher that he was last year. Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think he has a chance to, I mean, etch his name right along Jermaine Johnson, maybe even higher than Jermaine Johnson. Like if he has that type of season, he has defensive player of the year for the conference potential. I mean, he has the potential to be a part of a special team at Florida State. I think he is a good name. I mean, truthfully, he might have run people the wrong way with the to transfer or not to transfer, but Josh Farmer is a guy. I mean, he was he was the guy in our story we did. He was the defensive MVP of the spring for me, and I kind of pulled him out of the story once that started happening. I was like, we don't need to give that guy love at this moment in time, but he was probably the single most impressive player of the defense to me this spring. And I think, I mean, along with Jared, I'd throw Patrick Payton in there. I think, I mean, the year he had and with the spring he had, I know the coaches kind of talked about him being a candidate for most improved, and him being a candidate for most improved after the season he just had is a pretty scary proposition because he stepped up when Jared went down and made a real impact the rest of the way. And another guy, I mean, Shaheem definitely deserves to be there, but I'm throwing Fentrell Cypress too. I mean, that's he may not be a safety in all likelihood, even though I don't think he's a guy who they're going to move there, but I think can be a lockdown corner for them, matches up well against bigger receivers, even though he's not as tall. I mean, it felt like they threw Drew Spann, threw Johnny, threw a lot of those taller guys against him a lot this spring to kind of challenge him, and he rose to the occasion pretty well.
Couldn't agree more. I think I was thinking of those names, and as soon as you said it, all I can say is I agree. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see that team. And obviously we're going to have many, many more conversations about football coming up. This made me laugh. I got to throw the comment out there from Sheila. I promise you, Sheila, we will talk FSU softball. We did for the first 20 minutes.
Sorry if you were late. You can go back and watch it.
That's totally cool. Sheila, join us on Friday, and we will have even more softball talk for you. Wednesday, we'll have a predominantly football and recruiting show. But Friday, we'll be back with you. Chris, shout out to you too. They have been fun to watch. And Pat chiming in, Cat game 1 and in game 2 as necessary for survival, if not game 3. You're not going to start her in all 3 games. That's just not going to happen. That doesn't happen in softball.
No, I think he's saying 1 and 2 or 1 and 3.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with Pat there. If you lose game 1, she's got to go game 2. And so we're on the same page there. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Mike, what is up to you as well, my friends, on YouTube? We appreciate you guys watching. And our next show, I do have a graphic for it if I can put it up. Excuse me. Struggling to speak here. It's just Monday. Wednesday, 12:30, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We will have another Seminole Sidelines. I want to remind you, look at the bottom of your screen. Please subscribe to theosceola.com. And those of you watching right now, you're going to have a pop-up on your screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This one will hopefully look better if I can click the right one. There it is. And we appreciate you. We're nearing 1.6 thousand subscribers, and that's exciting. It's awesome. We're doing some different things as well now with our YouTube channel. Some more quick hitters, getting more involved in the YouTube Shorts game. For those of you with attention spans of, youngsters, pretty much all of us, including the 3 of us on this show. So we're doing some things to kind of stay up to date with the social media trends. And so check us out, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast on Apple, on Spotify. And again, we do appreciate you. Please keep the questions coming, and we will talk to you soon. For Kurt Weiler, for Bob Ferranti, I'm Aria Masudi. This has been Seminole Sidelines, and we will talk to you soon.